Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be a review on the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Really quickly, I know I said I was going to do a room tour on Thursday, I just never got that finished. I still have a lot to clean, and I apologize for that. It will be coming, I promise. But I do want to get some movie reviews out of the way, so I'm sorry about that. So here, let's get started, because I don't want to run out of time. So, really quickly, I thought it was an okay movie. Compared to, for example, the second Spider-Man, I do think Spider-Man 2 was a much better movie. Uh, there were issues I had with this movie, but there were also things that I actually really liked in this movie that I preferred over the original three movies. So let's get started with, obviously, the movie-making part of that whole thing, and let's talk about the directing. I think his name is Mark Webb. He's an okay director. There were some choices with the camera movements that he made that I felt were really bad. There was some, of course, the shaking. I'm not a big fan of that. And then there was a couple times where he did like slow motion, and it just didn't work. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. It did not work with the slow motion did not work, and I did not particularly like that. However, I do like, some of the scenes that he did with, for example, Aunt May, and then Spider-Man at the end, which I'll get to a little later, that I liked, that I thought were very touching and actually made me cry. I know. So he did an okay job. He had some good moments and some bad moments. We went on to the costumes, because that's actually a pretty big one. For Spider-Man, his costume does look quite like it's supposed to look. There are slight changes, not too big, but they're there. It still at least looks what you would see in the comic books. The big changes to costume, of course, were Electro, Rhino, and the Hobgoblin. So, let's see. Electro starts off wearing like this hoodie type outfit, with hoodie with some jeans and that kind of thing, and then he gets this really cool looking black suit. I actually liked that change for a couple of reasons. I think his costume was a little lame in the comics. The weird, I think it was green with lightning, like right there. It looked really bad, and it would not look good in the movie, to be honest. You do have to accommodate the medium that you're making it for. So you have to make some changes. The Rhino costume is pretty cool too. It was kind of like an armor suit, like Iron Man, but it looks like a rhino. Obviously, in the comics, he just wears, of course, a rhino costume. Not a, not like that, but again, they just updated it for, a movie purpose. It looks cool though. It's very interesting how it moved. For Rhino, I think, his costume worked in the comics, unlike Electro's. I think it didn't look lame, but they could have done something, where they just slightly changed it, because I think making an armored suit just is too much, like Iron Man. So there's that costume, but it was pretty cool. I liked the way it moved and everything. And then the last one was the Hobgoblin. His actually was pretty cool too. I do prefer the comic look for the Hobgoblin and the Green Goblin. Unfortunately, the Green Goblin was not in this movie, and I'll get to that a little later about why he wasn't in the movie, but his costume was pretty cool. They did have him use the glider, of course, which looked awesome. For him, I'm going to quickly talk about it. He had a bit of makeup on, and Electro had makeup on too, I forgot to mention that. Electro was all blue, which is pretty cool, because it's blue, but it looks like, electricity, the current of electricity. It's like running through his skin, so it looked really cool. It was a really cool use of makeup and visual effects for Electro's skin. Harry actually looked really bad, I think, with the makeup for him. It did not look very good. I didn't like it. So, I liked the costume, but I did not like his makeup. So there's costumes. Let's talk about music very fast. I actually really like the way they use this weird, like, I think it's like electronica music. It's pretty cool. It, it brings something different to this movie that, the other Spider-Man movies didn't have, because they used a more traditional movie score. This is a bit different. It's not what you would expect for a movie score, and I really liked it. I thought it was a new twist, and I think it worked. Excuse me. So there's music. Acting. Overall, I think the cast did an amazing job. The standouts for me were the two of the villains and Gwen Stacy, so they were perfect. I think Emma Stone is an amazing Gwen Stacy, much better than Bryce Dallas Howard was. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm really sniffly, I don't mean to do that. And Jamie Foxx was actually a very good Electro. I think he did an amazing job being this person who was kind of nerdy, who started off really obsessed with Spider-Man, and then that obsession turned into the hate he needed to be the villain. And I thought that worked very well. I think he played it very well. And he really worked very well as Electro, and I really enjoyed him. I cannot say the guy that plays Harry Osborn's name. All I can say is he's way better than James Franco was, because I think he's a better actor. I don't think James Franco is a very good actor. He did not impress me as Harry in the original 3. He did not impress me in some of the other movies I've seen him in. This guy is really good. I think he is. I think his name is Dane DeHaan. That's it, Dane DeHaan. He's amazing. I hope when they do the third one, I hope he's back and gets to do some more amazing stuff, because his scenes are pretty good. Emma Stone, again, better than Bryce Dallas Howard. I really like, the scenes between her and Peter. They're very touching. There are moments where I'm like, I love you, Gwen Stacy, and, because she does things that, most girls don't do in these types of movies, where she decides, you know what, this relationship, I love you and everything, but I have goals and dreams that I want to fulfill, and they're important to me. And you normally don't see that. You normally see the girl always try to be with the guy, right? And usually she doesn't try to fulfill her dreams. So I like that. And, I don't know if Emma Stone was the one that pushed that, or if the director pushed that. It was both of them. More praise to them. Again, I mentioned Aunt May had a scene. There was a scene where Sally Field. Again, I'm not too big on Sally Field as Aunt May. I think she's a bit too young to play the character. I always felt Aunt May was a much older woman. But I do like Sally Field. I think she's an amazing actress, and she's really there because she's an amazing actress. She's there for the star power. Much like Michael Douglas is partly cast for Ant-Man, and some other people were cast in certain Marvel movies and so forth, was because they're bringing this quality to the film being Oscar winners and things like that. They have this prestige. So that's really why she was cast, and she does an amazing job as Aunt May. And I mentioned a scene where I cried, and she was talking about how, it was upsetting her how she felt whenever Peter was obsessed with his parents, it made her feel like, oh, I am not worthy of being your mother type thing. It's a very touching scene, because then Peter breaks down and says, no, you were a good mother, you are my mother, and I thought it was very touching and sweet. Andrew Garfield was actually a pretty good Spider-Man, but, he's different than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He's a bit more cocky, he tells a lot of, wise jokes and things like that, so, he's playing that Spider-Man. That Spider-Man is different. Therefore, it's two different performances of the same character. Not, but I think he's playing one aspect of the character that was in the comics, and then Tobey Maguire is playing the other aspect. Yeah. So that's what's going on there. But he did really good too, and I really like him. I think all these actors are going to go really far in terms of their careers. Obviously, I meant the young guys, not the older ones. Let's get on to plot really quick. I just mentioned Gwen Stacy and Peter's relationship. I absolutely enjoyed it. I prefer it over Mary Jane. I actually prefer Gwen Stacy over Mary Jane. I think she's smarter. I think she's a better female character. I just mentioned how she put her goals and dreams first before being in a relationship with Peter Parker. And I think that's amazing. Very rare for female characters to do that. I really enjoyed that aspect of her character. Spoiler right here, in case you don't know. Most people know this because it's in the comic books, but Gwen Stacy's killed in this movie. It makes me so sad. That's where I cried again. They pretty much did it exactly like how it was done in the comic book. While it's sad, it is a necessary character development for Spider-Man, because it really affects him throughout the comics. Because unlike other comic book characters, I believe they have not brought Gwen Stacy back in the comics. And so her death had made a huge impact on Spider-Man. I know a lot of people argue about who's his true love. I do think Gwen Stacy will always hold a place in his heart because she was his first love, and first love does that. But she was also the one he lost. Whether if she was alive, would they had still been together, that's debatable, but she was the first person that he lost, or one of the people that he loved that he lost while doing this job, right? While being Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Okay, so moving on really quickly. There were changes to the Spider-Man origin story and of course the villain origin story. For Electro, I thought it was pretty cool how he got his powers. It's different, of course, than in the comics, but it worked. Because Electro, wasn't a very popular Spider-Man villain compared to, obviously, the Green Goblin, the Hobgoblin, and a couple others. So, it's okay, I think, in order, to change his origin story. It works the way they did it. However, that being said, changing Spider-Man's origin story to make it this big, conspiracy theory, sorry, spoiler, I felt was unnecessary. I think it should have just been the accident that it was in the comics. I think making it where Peter's dad created the spiders, and it only works on Peter because of his DNA, I think is really bad and pretty stupid, actually. I did not enjoy that aspect of the movie. It's one of the reasons why it's rated really low for me. And also, I didn't like how Harry became the Hobgoblin. I preferred what they did in, obviously, the original movie, where it was out of his need for revenge for his father. This was out of his need to survive from a disease. However, I do enjoy that aspect of the character where the family has this rare disease that they need to cure, and that's why the spiders were being created. That was an interesting aspect. Again, not one I'm a terrible fan of, because it does change the aspect of the characters and their whole origin from the comics. And I'm a big, comic book person. For example, they slightly changed Iron Man's, origin, right? But he still gets kidnapped, and he's still pretty much a prisoner of war. Only they just changed which war it was and who did the kidnapping. And it worked. And it still stuck with how it was in the comics, but just updating it to modern times. And I think that's how it should have been here, instead of making it a conspiracy theory. So those are some of my issues with that part of the story. Again, I did enjoy the romance. Obviously that's not why people go to comic book movies, but I did enjoy the romance. I did enjoy some of the touching moments between Aunt May and Peter Parker. I did enjoy what Peter went through after Gwen's death. I liked that it took a toll on him, and it showed in the movie. I enjoyed that. Let's see, what else is there really quick. That's pretty much it. I think it was a pretty okay movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I say go see it if you're a huge Spider-Man fan. You might be disappointed though, but you should see it anyways. I think you should see it just because of Gwen Stacy. She's the highlight, and so is Electro. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this movie review, and see you in the next one for X-Men Days of Future Past.